I asked what the proper way is. He said, the proper way is a method that is harmless to society and others. That I continued to ask, a poor child, smart and studious, is reading high school, you pity them, find a way to find a job for this child who is in school, so that his family's economic situation has improved. This kind of help is harmless to society, and harmless to others. Is it called kindness? He answered. It is kindness. That I said, this child may go to college after graduating from high school, and he has a bright future. You found him a job, solved the urgent need, but ruined his bright future. Can this be called kindness? He thought for a while and said, the best help is not only harmless to society and others, but also considers the overall interests and long-term interests of the help object, but this is complicated. I said, all right, let us not delve too deep, let us consider the simple. You just said that helping the weak and poor is kindness, so is helping the powerful and wealthy not considered kindness? He decisively said, it's not kindness, and he gave an example. Hitler was powerful, helping him is evil. Capitalists get rich by exploiting the surplus value of workers, helping them is not good. That I said, during the warring states period in China, wars were frequent, and people were living in dire straits. Some people helped the most powerful Qin state to unify China, thereby ending the wars, and the common people could rest and recuperate from then on. Can you say that helping the powerful is not an act of kindness? He thought for a while and said, if this powerful entity benefits the vast majority of people, helping it can also be said to be kind. That I asked. The United States is the most powerful in the world today. If we help it to unify the globe, unify the currency, eliminate the military expenditures of various countries, freely exchange various cultures, freely come and go, and avoid many disputes, would you say this kind of help is considered kindness? He laughed heartily and answered, this is a political issue, it's hard to say, hard to say. I continued to ask, does help also have a nature attribute? Is there political help, economic help, humanitarian help, cultural help, human rights help, military help? If divided by attributes, which kind of help is considered good? He immediately waved his hand and said, this is too complicated. I smiled and said, let us not talk about the complicated ones. You said that helping the rich is not good. Suppose there is a place in Africa where people have no shoes to wear. Someone helped a big capitalist in the UK to set up a shoe factory in this place. From then on, the products of this place have increased in value. Some local people have entered a relatively civilized factory to work, started to contact machines, learned language and text. This remote place has a road to other tribes, and more importantly, people have shoes to wear, gradually leaving the primitive way of life and moving towards civilization. Do you think this kind of help is not good? He thought for a long time before saying, this kind of help is colonial in nature, but from a long-term perspective, it is good for the development of Africa and the people of Africa, and it can also be said to be good. That I laughed and asked, so you say helping the weak and poor is good? Is this sentence correct? He suddenly woke up, punched me on the shoulder, and laughed and said, you deliberately beat around the bush to make me fall into your trap. After a pause, he sighed and muttered to himself, it is really difficult to define goodness clearly. The greatest benevolence appears indifferent. The greatest kinship shows no favoritism. The greatest goodness appears evil. The greatest evil appears good. After a moment, he suddenly stood up, faced me, and said decisively, no matter what, killing is always evil and not kind. That he looked as if he had finally found an invincible truth. I stared into his eyes and gave an example. There was a 9-person squad that was sent thousands of miles away to a place heavily surrounded by enemy forces to rescue people on a quiet night. Midway, they were discovered by the enemy. During the firefight, one of them was seriously injured and could no longer walk. The squad leader had no choice but to shoot this comrade to death. If he didn't kill him, the angry enemy would hack him to death. He would suffer torture and pain. If he couldn't stand the torture, he would reveal the action plan of this 9-person squad, and then the whole army would be wiped out. Do you say this kind of killing is not kind? For example, an old and frail person, suffering from a terminal illness, in unbearable pain, decided by relatives and doctors, was mercifully given a lethal injection. The old man peacefully closed his eyes and ended his life. Do you say this kind of killing is kind? I spoke slowly, and his face gradually changed from a happy look to a puzzled look. He suddenly sat down on the edge of the bed. I knew that if I asked again at this time, I would definitely provoke his anger. I quickly lay on the bed, turned my back, and casually picked up a reader published by Gansu Province, China, and started reading. I disrupted his good feelings and values, which was undoubtedly a blow to his head. At this time, I only heard him panting heavily. I knew that war was imminent. I held my breath and quietly read the book. Just then his younger brother brought a bowl of braised pork for us to eat. As soon as he saw the food, he came back to his senses and shouted, "Damn, eating meat should always be good." He casually picked up a piece of meat and put it in his mouth. I lay still without moving, and responded to him, "What about eating human flesh?" He probably choked or got something lodged in his throat, and he abruptly spat out the meat in his mouth, bellowing, "You're utterly inhumane. When we talk about eating meat, we're referring to the meat of birds and beasts. How can it involve eating human flesh? Humans are sentient beings that can think and feel pain and pleasure. The cruelest act is to consume human flesh." I turned to ask again, "What about eating dog meat?" Dogs also have a spiritual nature and can understand human emotions. They are loyal friends to humans. They guard homes, provide comfort to lonely elderly people, can herd, and avenge their masters. Isn't it cruel to eat their meat? He was taken aback, seemingly enlightened, squinting his eyes, and whispered, "It's best not to eat dog meat." "What about horse meat, beef, chicken, pork, etc.?" I continued to ask. He pondered for a while and answered, "For other animal meats, the slaughterer is cruel, the eater is innocent." "So are you saying that those who manufacture guns and missiles are cruel, but those who use these weapons to kill are kind?" He waved his hand impatiently and said, forget it, I won't argue with you anymore. In any case, kindness and diligence are absolutely correct." I said, "Yes, ants are diligent, but too naive, bees are diligent, but too foolish, gold diggers are diligent, but they destroy vegetation and turn grasslands into deserts, farmers are diligent, but after a heavy rain, they stand at the edge of the field, crying and shouting, heartbroken."